You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Data to ng ating local government units. Publicly available information to on the framework of accountability because we pay government taxes. So kasama sa responsibilidad ng gobyerno sa atin yung i-report sa atin how they spent the money.
That is Dr. Cielo Magno, or Cielo, former undersecretary at the Department of Finance. She's no longer with the DOF. Cielo is back with the University of the Philippines School of Economics.
Over the years, malaking reforma na to. I remember a long time ago, most of this data, while available, they're in PDF forms, no?
Since returning to the academe, and well, actually for some days before she went back to UP, Cielo's profile with the public had risen. She was very vocal about her disagreements with the economic policies of the Marcos administration. After her return to the academe and to policy advocacy, Cielo resumed her efforts to educate the public about transparency and accountability in government.
So right now, the fact that they're in Excel, significant improvement na to in terms of availability of data.
She started posting about budgets and spending by local governments. In particular, she exposed the existence of confidential funds in Davao City during the time that Vice President Sara Duterte was still mayor. That gained Professor Cielo some following and some notoriety, but she insists her objective was not to embarrass anyone. Instead, she simply wanted to empower Filipinos, to show them that you can do this too. In fact, she says, it's easy. Hello, ako po si Robbie Alampay, Puma Podcast, and in this episode of Teka Teka, we take up Professor Cielo Magno's offer to see for ourselves how easy it is to monitor government, the national to local budgets, and how your taxes are being spent. Ito, diretsuhin na natin sa summary. Cielo says, if you can download and if you can hit CTRL-F, you too can be a watchdog on public funds. Cielo demonstrates this with two websites. That for the Bureau of Local Government Finance, or BLGF, and then for the Commission on Audit, or COA. We will leave links for those two websites in the episode description.
It's actually very easy, especially with respect to the local government units. Just have to go to the website, the Bureau of Local Government Finance, which has not oversight, but supervisory power in terms of monitoring local government revenues and spending.
The professor says if you can download files from the BLGF, there are a lot of powerful insights and analysis that will immediately and literally be at your fingertips. From both websites, you can download your LGU's budget and spending. You can download them for every year, for example, or you can get files on different cities, municipalities, provinces, and then you can compare your mayor's priorities with those of others.
So if you go to that website, every year, all the data reported by the local treasury are uploaded in that website. So hanapin mo lang yung name ng LGU mo, hanapin mo yung year. When you download that file, that's an Excel file, you can already see this aggregated, the revenues of your local governments, how much taxes they're collecting, are this real property taxes, business tax, disaggregated. You can even see kung nangungutang yung LGUs mo And then, so pinapakita niya yung revenue, yung kalahati naman, pinapakita niya how the revenues were spent. So, really, very easy.
But for somebody who's intimidated even by Excel, diba? If I download it, will I know what to do with it?
You have to open the file in Excel platform. But if you look at it, it's properly labeled. Naka-organize siya in a way na nakalagay naman revenue and expenses. So kung ihahambing mo siya sa isang regular household, tayo may mga kita tayo, essentially that reflect the revenue of the LGUs, yung mga kita ng LGUs. Tapos household natin, kung magastos din tayo. Yung kagandahan ng SRE, local governments are required to organize yung spending nila based on responsibility, based on sector. So, kita mo agad, ito yung education spending, ito yung health spend. So, very organized siya. It may be intimidating in the sense that it's an Excel file, but once you open it, you familiarize yourself with the terms, which are common terms, revenue and expenses. Hindi naman masyadong nakakatakot.
And how big is that file?
It's to check natin ha. Maliit lang yan. Maliit lang na...
Baka naman napaka-powerful ng computer mo. Lang ako, i3 lang ako na 8th gen Intel. Baka yung computer ko mapulunan.
Hindi. Ano lang to, maliit na file lang siya. It's a very small file. Tapos kung isang LGU lang siya, hindi pa lalagpas ng 10 rows yung entry. Actually, ito pala na-download ko na. 1,000 KB. So, ibig sabihin 1 MB siya. 1 MB. Pero ngayon kasi ang nakalagay ito, fiscal year 2022, pag download mo, kompletong data na to. Lahat ng barangay, lahat ng region, hindi lahat ng barangay, lahat ng munisipyo, at lahat ng probinsya, at lahat ng city. Makikita mo na. Ayan. So, 1 MB pala siya. So, maliit lang siya.
It's per LGU. Pwede ko i-download per LGU.
Yes. Per LGU siya.
Okay, so when you say LGU, you're talking down to the level of municipalities? Can you go down to the level of barangays?
Yeah, right now, yan ang challenge ng BLGF. They actually want to gather additional information. Right now, we don't have barangay . Mas maganda nga sana covered yung barangay kasi malawak-lawak din yung responsibilities ng barangay in terms of local services.
And then the lines, the spending line, these are common standard titles for each line?
Yes, oo.
So I can also compare from LGU to LGU.
Oo. Tapos, in fact, sa website ng BLGF, meron kang mada-download na manual doon. Ang pangalan niya, SRE Manual, Statement of Receipts and Expenditures Manual. So, lahat ng definition of terms, kung meron kang hindi maintindihan, titingnan mo lang doon, in-explain nila kung ano yung ibig sabihin.
And yet, a funny thing happened when Cielo posted about the BLGF and COA websites and how she was trying to demonstrate how easy it is to use. In fact, if you saw her posts on social media, or if you're listening to this episode right now, kaya mo rin to. You have everything you need. That was Cielo's point. And yet most people who were leaving comments on her social media pages were not actually using or following her instructions. Instead, they were all asking her to continue doing it for them.
Yun nga, I think manifestation yun ng manifestation ng pagka-intimidate ng mga tao sa data. Kaya nung minsan pinupost ko sa social media, nilalagay ko na lang sa graph para mas madaling makita yung comparison. Mas madaling maintindihan.
Pero hindi kami, we won't run afoul of the law. People are probably also asking about data privacy and all of that. They're probably also thinking, parang hack ba to? Is this a way to hack? I mean, what should be their mindset when you tell them just go here and get it? Kasi it's possibly not just intimidation on the technical side. They're also probably wary. Kasi nga hindi natin ginagawa to . They're probably also
actually
wondering,
medyo tricky din. That's an
ko?
interesting conversation, yung data privacy. But this one is not, these are not personal data. Data to ng ating local government units. So kasama sa responsibilidad ng gobyerno sa atin, yung i-report sa atin how they spent the money.
Let's take a quick break. But when we return, let's talk about everything else that we can do to help improve transparency and governance in the Philippines. We'll also talk about how things actually have already improved.
So, over the years, malaking reforma na to. I remember a long time ago, most of this data, while available, they're in PDF forms, no? So right now, the fact that they're in Excel, ano na to? Significant improvement na to in terms of availability of data. There was a time when you look at the budget sa website ng DBM, they're in PDF. Yung hindi readable, yung picture.
And ako, I was in a congressional hearing. This was after PDAF and DAP. And after the DBM created a website, a microsite for DAP and PDAF, di ba? So sinabi niyo, mada-download nyo na yung mga digital report. It wasn't even PDF. Merong iba, ganito ka-absurd. It was a printout na nakascan. And then, it was rotated 90 degrees. And then when it was rotated 90 degrees, tsaka lang kinonvert into PDF. Parang sa akin, how could you have had na hindi yan nag-umpisa sa Microsoft Word, na hindi yan nag-start sa Word or hindi yan nag-start sa Excel. Diba? Parang pamimiloso po talaga eh.
Meron kasi tayo ng open governance partnership. It's a global movement yan. Ang part ng commitment is to make information available to the public. Yan, yung strengthening transparency and accountability. Kasama sa mga metrics niyan, yung how accessible are government information. Are they user-friendly? Pwede mo bang gamitin sa analytics? Kaya medyo nag-evolve na from pictures, yung kinasasabi mong scan, to a more manipulable data format like Excel.
Now, a quick note. If you've been following along all this time, Cielo has been talking about the Bureau of Local Government Finance, or BLGF, not yet the COA. She, you, all of us, technically have visibility and access to Commission on Audit or COA reports too. But once you get from the BLGF to the COA, it's suddenly no longer as straightforward as what Cielo had been describing for the BLGF.
Actually, Robbie, in fact, yung sa COA, available kasi mga annual reports per LGU, diba? What would have been useful would be for a data set then coming from COA in terms of this expenditure, a standardized merged financial statement. Kasi I actually use COA data, but we had to encode each LGU to have the data from those COA reports. Tapos i-merge mo dito sa statement of receipts and expenditure. Matrabaho. We spend a lot of money just to form a data set na yung pwede mong i-analyze at the national level scale, look at patterns, etc., etc.
Hindi, wait. I'm confused. Akala ko Excel na yung format.
No, sa COA PDF yun. Individual. So, two websites. COA, you have the annual audit reports ng LGUs and the executive. Sa BLGF, you have the Excel of their receipts and expenditure. So, when I post those information online, it's a combination of information from COA and information from the Bureau of Local Government Finance.
What's the difference? Like, etong data na to from BLGF, what does that represent? And then yung data ng COA with regards to the exact same local governments, di ba?
Yes.
What does that represent?
So yung sa statement of receipts and expenditures, it's essentially showing the cash flow of local governments. Ito yung mga pumasok na revenues and how they spent the money. These are...
in-out.
Yes. Ngayon, itong statement of receipts and expenditure na to, ino-audit din ito ng COA. Tapos tinitingnan nila, ano ba yung mga items kung paano ginastos yung pera? Nag-comply ba to sa Procurement Act? Makikita mo din sa COA report yung, ano yung mga gaps, naging problema ng LGU. Meron ba silang mga hindi na-liquidate? Meron ba silang mga hindi sinunod sa procurement law? Yung mga mahilig sa marites tungkol sa financial funds ang LGU. Basahin nyo yung COA report. Makikita nyo.
I did ask Cielo, by the way, why did we jump straight to LGUs? What happened to national government? What happened to departments? She says, well, first, there are entire organizations, NGOs, academic centers, think tanks, sectoral organizations that do take part from being consulted on the crafting of budgets to monitoring those national level budgets. But her second point also is that at that level, technically, you can still monitor, but it takes a lot more resources and sophistication. That's why we concentrate and we go straight to local government funds. Maybe we'll do an episode on monitoring budgets at the national level for another episode.
When we had the 1991 local government code, a lot of functions were transferred to LGUs. Second, marami na ring fund na natatransfer sa local government. And a few years ago, we had di ba meron tayong tinatawag na IRA dati, Internal Revenue Allotment? So, national revenue, a portion of that transferred to our local government units. Katapat nga nun yung dagdag na responsibilidad nila. And now, a few years ago, we had the Mandanas ruling, even expanding the basis of a computation ng local government share. So, meaning more money for local governments. And sa economics, meron kasi tayong theory yan, yung voting by feet. No? Pipili ka ng LGU na magiging responsive, yung nagbibigay sa'yo ng serbisyong gusto mo. So, importanteng i-engage natin yung mga LGUs for them to know ano ba yung gusto natin.
So, this is particularly relevant, for example, with PGC and the MBOS transferring between Makati and Taguig. They can now start scrutinizing not just lump sums and not just actual benefits. They can actually start scrutinizing how judicious either LGU is.
Yeah, so halimbawa, ang mandate to build classrooms, nasa local governments yan, diba? Ito yung magpapasukan, reklamo tayo ng reklamo na ang sikip na walang enough classroom, yung mga anak natin kailangan may shifting para pumasok sa eskwelahan. So magkano ba yung ginagastos ng local government para sa education? Napaka-importante nun. Tumitingin pa rin tayo sa DepEd Pero yung may mandate niyan, LGU Halimbawa, yung pagbibigay ng daycare. May mandate dyan yung local government na dapat may daycare para sa mga hindi pa grade 1 or kindergarten. Ilang LGUs may daycare. Yung mga single mom na gustong magtrabaho, sana may daycare para pwedeng alagaan yung mga anak nila. But we're not aware na mandate na ng LGU, diba? And that's part of my advocacy. Pagpasensyahan na ng mga LGUs, kaya sila yung mga una kong pinopost online na dapat tutukan. Ayun nga, sumabog din yung confidential fund. Diba? Napatingin tuloy ako.
Was that a genuine curiosity on your part? Or did you actually know na meron yan? Or if you start from that basic question, yes or no, meron bang ganyan?
It was a genuine curiosity on my part kung meron nga bang confidential fund ang mga LGUs until nahanap ko na may memorandum circular pala ang DILG with respect to confidential fund of LGUs. And then, syempre, out of curiosity, unang-una kong hinanap yung Davao City.
Yung confidential fund, so to your point, nasilip mo yung confidential fund ng Davao City government. So you saw it on the local levels. Everybody was looking at it on the level of the Vice President, on the level of the OP, on the level of the Department of Education. But you said na, hindi, teka muna, I can actually see this at the local level. How hard is that? So when people go to BLGF, confidential funds, confidential intelligence funds, that is a standard item across all LGUs?
Actually, yung confidential fund, hindi mo yan makikita sa BLGF data. Makikita mo yan sa COA reports. That's why I made the YouTube video to show people how to find it. So, kaya ako tinuro, CTRL-F lang, confidential. Bitaw na siya as entry to under MOE.
So you can download it from the COA. That will be a PDF file. And then, bago mo pa ma-ingest and bago mo pa ma-structure yung data dun sa PDF, you can do a CTRL-F, you can do a find command, just look for confidential fund.
So, madali lang daw
Sounds simple, but is it really? Show notes will also include links to the YouTube instructional video that Cielo posted. But on November 7, a few days after this episode goes up, Cielo agreed to do a live online workshop with Puma Podcast and you, the loyal, awesome community of listeners of Teka Teka. Link to that will also be in the show notes, so you can hopefully join us. Until then, we will leave it at this for this episode of Teka Teka. Ako po si Robbie Alampay, Puma Podcast. Please do follow Teka Teka on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, or kung saan man kayo Puma Podcast. Maraming salamat po.